welcome everybody. This is the 2021-22 Coach Update meeting for First Lego League Challenge of Eastern Missouri and Central Missouri. I am Rhonda Rawson. I am the program delivery partner along with Kathy Reeder, listening over there, for First Lego League in Central and Eastern Missouri. Wanted to just let everyone know that we have some people here in person. We're also broadcasting online, so I apologize if it doesn't look like I'm talking to you because I don't know where to look exactly. We're going to go over. I'm going to go over the local structure and how we are doing events this year, and how we're structured. And then Fred, our head referee, is going to go over the field a little bit this year and just talk about some of the special items on the field. And then we have some special guests, Rohan and Addie, who are going to go over some just new coach tips and also how to program with Skype time. So you're welcome to stay for part or all of those presentations. If you're online, we do have someone monitoring, so if you have questions, feel free to type those in, and you can ask us, and we'll try to answer those. First, I wanted to introduce First in Missouri, our brand new nonprofit organization that was just set up this year to run FIRST programs in Missouri. For 20 years, we've been running programs completely volunteer, without an organization, so it's very nice to have that this year. And it's all thanks to Laura Roth, who is the executive director of the nonprofit. And First in Missouri is taking care of First Lego League in East and Central Missouri, First Tech Challenge in Missouri and Kansas, and an First Robotics Competition. They aren't organized by region or organized by event, and so the St. Louis regional event that takes place here in St. Louis also falls under First in Missouri. And in case you're wondering, the Kansas City region has their own nonprofit that's been established already for a long time, so they're still taking care of programs there, and we are just handling the rest of the state. All right, let's talk about registration. So first, you should have already registered your event, your team with FIRST. That makes you an official team that's registered at FIRST nationally, and that allows you to order your field sets and create a team online. Then, after you do that, you would register for a local event here with us. So that's handled separately. We will have the registration open from September 23rd until October 2nd this year. And all the information for that is on our website, which is stlfirst.org or firstinmo.org. Both of them will get you there. There's a First Lego League team portal on that page, and that's where you can find all the information for event registration. We will also email that information out to all registered coaches in our region. So when you go in to register for an event, your team will be able to attend one event, one qualifier. But when you register, you will choose your top 3 choices of events and put them in order, first being your first choice, number 2 being your second choice, number 3 being your third choice. And then we will assign them based on availability. When you register for an event, you pay online. You have to use a credit card. It's the only way we can take payments. We can't do POs or anything like that, so you have to use a credit card. The cost is $75 for each team. And we are committing to having event assignments completed by October 23rd. Hopefully it'll be a lot sooner, but sometimes it's hard to wrangle everybody and get everybody registered by a certain date. So there are, go ahead and go to the next one. There are 15 qualifiers that you'll have to choose from. So with COVID, for everyone, obviously, is what are the policies, what's going to be required, and I know that matters to everyone. And so what we're trying to do is just let you all know by the event registration time what events are requiring what. So that will be much more clear on the document that's on the website. For this slide, I underlined the ones where masks are not required. Some of them are masks recommended, but all the ones that are not underlined on this slide will require masks. And then, if you were involved last year, you'll know that the in-person events we did in what we called a parade style, where not everyone wasn't there at the same time. We had 2 teams come in at a time. They competed together, then went to judging, and then they left. That is sort of our backup. If things go crazy and we can't have everyone there all at once, we'll switch to a parade style event. If the venue completely shuts down, we'll have to go ahead and switch to a completely remote event. But at the moment, there's only one. The one at Rolla is already converted to a parade style event, so we know that's going to happen for sure. The rest of them are planning to be traditional style where everyone is there all at once. And I will try to keep the information on the website updated as much as I possibly can. We just ask it, obviously, be flexible, like everyone. We'll do the best that we can, and we really want to see everyone, but we also want to do it safely. And also a reminder that all of these events are run by volunteers, and so we need each team to provide at least one volunteer. It can be at the event that your team is at or any other event. We just ask that if someone from your team is going to be a judge, that they would judge after your team has already competed. That way we can make sure there's no question of conflict of interest. And then each qualifying event is going to promote teams to our regional qualifier. For Eastern and Central Missouri, we'll have regional championship. We'll have one regional championship for the entire region, and it will take place at St. Louis Community College in Bow Valley in Florissant, which is in the St. Louis area. And then from there, as far as we know, we'll be able to promote one team to World Championship. If we find out that we get more than one, we'll let everyone know, but for now, that's what we've been told. So, are there any questions about that information?
If we have to go to remote, will we have another 30 students that kind of fill in on how that's going to work?
We will, no, probably not. We would handle that by email. If we feel we may do an online meeting if we have to. Yeah, it went pretty smooth last year. We did it, and it's set up similar to the parade style where you do all of your robot runs with the referees watching via video conferencing. You do all 3 runs right at the same time. They'll give you a little break in between, fix things if you want, and then the judges come into your virtual room with you and you do your judging session.
I'm just wondering how it works for like those who broke out prior to drop something on their team.
Yeah, has First already said anything about Fred? Do you know how they're going to handle the shared mission this year for remote events? Last year First had set something up and said, they made a rule that if this happens, you get this many points, certain situations you assume the other team did. It's just, that way it's just a standard rule for everybody. Yeah. And we would never have a situation where somebody competing remote is competing against someone who's in person, because then it wouldn't be the same, So we'll make sure that doesn't. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure first we'll announce that one way or the other if they haven't already. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. So these are set options. So they are venues that were already set up. So when you register for an event, you pick your top 3 choices out of these. We threw in a remote qualifier for January 8th and one for January 9th, really to kind of see how many people wanted that. If a whole lot of people choose that, we may, some of the other ones that weren't as popular, we may flip them to remote and then work on the dates with those that signed up. So what we do is we try to offer everything and then see what people want. It worked really well last year. We don't normally have to do that, but it was about 289. Yeah, and we only have 130-ish teams right now. So there's plenty of spots, and we will, whichever ones aren't as popular, we'll cancel and we won't have those. But we won't do that till after event registration. So. Oh, yeah, so you might have missed that part. The underlined ones on here are the ones where masks are not required. There's at Lutheran and Springfield, the masks recommended, and then at Camdenton, there's no rules at all. So the rest of them are masks required. Any other questions? Anything online? Okay. They can't hear me. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, Fred, we need you to talk loud. All right. All right, give us a second as we transition over to Fred. Oh, we need to do the those of you that are here, if you want to come over to the table, you're welcome to.
Okay. So the table and the games are pretty much how they were last year, right? So you've got the home area, you've got the launch area, and after High-Rolla has to be entirely in the launch area before it launches, all right? Once it launches, that launch area becomes part of home. So anything in this area, anything in this area, you can touch. Anything in this area, you can touch. All game long, you can only touch this area once you go to the launch. Again, this is going to be the small inspection area. You get in there, you get bonus points so program your robot, it could come back in here, pick something up and go right back out again. Or you could have it, you can free grab your robots that's in this program. Okay, so one confusing part might be with these transport trucks. It says they have to connect outside of base. So you can't somehow bring this guy back in and then connect them and put them back out there. It has to happen outside of the launch area. So it's got to connect to that and maybe push it up to that. The other all limits. That would be 20, 20, 40 points. The bridge, obviously, you get those pieces down at the store, run out the.
You want to, after you go on, to go to the ask questions?
Oh, no, ask away.
Okay, so for
So, yeah, this truck is taking up a lot of room, but that's the way it works. The robots have to handle that truck because it's an intentional movement of a piece by the robot once it starts up. So, theoretically, if you just have it back here and have the robot back up and grab it, and bring it out. But, yeah, at the time your robot starts, or when you launch your robot, you really need to leave base for time to have that. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So this, when you bring it out, it has to fit under this section. That was four. So that partial scores. It sits there completely. That's a higher score. Chicken. Partially in its circle, that would score. If it's completely in its circle, that would also score. It's not counting the chicken, it's only its base. So this, where the chicken itself is actually sticking outside of the circle, its base is inside the circle, so that's a full score.
and we don't have to use the chicken in order to score.
No, you don't have to, that's true, yeah, you don't touch the chicken at all.
Just want to make sure.
At the end, when we count up the points, it's like, the chicken's in the circle. So, all right, this cargo box here, you bring it back to base. This is one of the fun things you can do. You grab it right away and start loading in your pieces. And believe it or not, they actually do well fit. And you bring that out. Well, because you got all pieces in, that's the end of that motion. So you get partial, full load, or you get the complete load. Now this is a storage box, so if you get into any of the circles, and anything is out of the circle, that's a circle, the chicken is in a circle, you got two circles over there, and the cargo connects to the circle. So you got all these circles on the board. As long as they're partially in, that's a score. If it's completely in, it's a score. If the yellow or the line are in their own color circle, this is over there, line is over there. stripe here, and a blue stripe here. This is for the airplane, this is for the truck. You just need something to walk on. Okay, it went past the line, that's good. Doesn't matter, that's all steel. Same thing with the truck. Just gotta whack that thing, it has to put back that blue line. Switch it again. It's running on diesel, gasoline right now, you just need to switch it over, run on electric. Robot, accident, avoidance. If your robot comes in here and crosses this blue line, that's a score right there. If it knocks over the yellow, that's a higher score. If it knocks over the black, 0 score. Alright?
And it's just one part of the robot.
Right.
Is there a certain
Well,
or a certain?
this is at end of game.
Oh, that's right.
So it has to be parked over here at the end of the game. Sorting, the idea is to leave the yellow piece out here. So get the green out, get the blue out, leave the yellow, it doesn't matter if you knock it down any way you want, as long as it's inside of the blue box. These guys, you can either put it out of the way, by the way, your elevation project also has to be in this circle, even part of this circle. That's how it's going to be. Train tracks, they're broken. You need to fix the train track and then make the train go all the way over so it locks in place. The overview capper, just have to get it over here. That would be a score, 20 points I think it is. That would be the same score because it's not completely on the port. Okay, it doesn't matter that that's touching the base and that's not touching the base, that's scored exactly the same. That is for hire. So these are just additional scores, some of those circles, circle. Shipping, if you push this guy to the east, this little lever is going to lift up the cargo. Lifting up the cargo is a score. Getting the cargo east of the platform is a higher score, additional score. That's what we're supposed to try and do. These guys are cargo. If you get these onto the cargo platform, and on all of these transport methods, it's only 2 at a time. So the 2 on there would be 40 points. That would be 40 points if all 3 went there. You can transport by truck, so that would be 40 points. That's still 40 points. And by train, that's 40 points. That's 40 points. You can only score 2 of the storage containers. Very simple, you just press the yellow rubber, and it dispenses that. What you make over here, this is where remote, you assume you drop the package, because if you drop your package, if you drop his package, that's a score. But in a real game, this, by the way, will drop into your home, so you pick it up right away. Give it to your robot. If your robot delivers it to cargo effect circle, that's points. Now, interruptions. That has changed just a little bit this year, especially with the update that came out. So in the past, if you had something, mission model, and brought it out of base, you interrupt your robot, because you brought it out of base and on where you lose it at. If it's totally out on the field, outside of a base home, it just stays there. If it becomes stranded, or partially, just both of those stranded. If you partially stranded, partially in base, partially outside base, the original guideline was you must take that into base, and the referee takes it. It changed. Now it says the team may take that back into base, so you don't have to take that into base. You know, the rest of the so remember that. So does that, just leave it there, the robot can go up, grab it, and so keep your job. That's about it. Nothing else. It's not so there's only that once, so it's really, oh, well, I think there's in mental things and all. So then, over the years, if you don't answer something, it's not in writing, back to interpretation. So, what was written is anything that's in a loft or a home that's not moving with the robot. Questions?
With this one right here, are you allowed to make it, carry the cargo over to it, that also supports it, so it doesn't fit?
And now, see, that's a good question. You could do that, because the cargo itself cannot be touching the equipment, but it doesn't say anything about the platform not being touched by the equipment. So, yeah, if you made something that went underneath that platform to hold it steady, that's only down. Okay.
You might want to watch for updates about that, though.
Okay, so
I mean, I don't know, that just seems like something that might be clarified.
yeah, there's several things that, yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's several things that are that way that say this will count. Pretty sure this is one, no equipment can be touching it, no equipment can be touching it. There might be another one or two. Yeah, just, follow the rules, make sure that you know which model you can touch, which model you can't touch. There's only one end of the game from this year, that you have to have a hanging bar and everything else. Out different. This year, this is the only one that's for it. And, obviously, everything is up. How it appears at the end of the game. But that one, the robots have to be in the accident avoidance at the end of the game.
And, they've seen some other teams online where they just moved the plane and the truck out without hitting the relatives. You have the little maneuver as well.
Nothing else says you can't do.
Okay. So as long as it says you can do it,
Says the plane has to cross that blue line. Okay.
okay. Okay. As for, road events, do the teams still get 3 runs?
You get one practice run and then 3 actual sporting matches. Well, in most of the events where we're participating, it's exactly like every other year. We don't get time frame to come up and run that. We actually fit, see what they do, what other people are competing, and we come back up again, come off the first match, leave, other people, then we come back out there again, and do 4 runs off of it. If we're at one of the schools that's doing parade style, then you'll do all 4 back to back. You practice, and you get a 10-minute break. Match 1, 5-minute break, match 2, 5-minute break, match 3. And so you never leave the table, you set the table on every side. I don't know that the teams will have to reset on the table. And then do a camera or some kind of proof that the team is set for.
Any other questions online? Yeah, okay. Can they hear from? Oh.
What?
All righty. Anybody else?
I'm kind of curious, so if everybody's probably going to be there, right, at the, for the in-person event,
Mm-hmm.
how come we're not going back to where you do, a round, and then you would go back to your, take some work on,
That is what we're doing.
I think you could do it remote, but, in person, you just have a 5-minute break.
No, that's,
No, that is
the parade style is set up that way.
so three different ones. There's
Yeah.
the normal one, which is almost all of the events.
Right.
And then you have the parade style one, which is all four at one time, even though you're in person. And then you have the remote, which does also all four at one time, and you're at home by yourself. Just you and each other.
But in between each round for, the in-person one, there'll be that time period between each round for the people, the kids who are going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got the library one, there, or, so it, okay, I don't know if you, but I want to do it,
It's easy enough. You
Yeah.
just have to have a rubber for a whack one side and put this stuff on.
Fred says it's easy.
Right, so it's easy, I mean, but how
Right.
do you-
Easy enough. It's easier than impossible.
All right.
Thank you, Fred.
Yes, thank you, Fred. All right, we're gonna transition over to,
Mention one more
oh,
thing,
go ahead.
and that's, when you bring your things up, and you've got your game controllers, your motors, your sensors, all that kind of stuff. And you got the new spike side.
Yeah.
You can still use your EV-Trade, your NXT,
Yep.
your RCX, every one of those controllers is still valid, you can still put exposures, make sure you even know it's controlled.
Hi everyone, I'm Addie Jane, and this is Reverend Surrey, and we're here from the Review Community Center Robotics Club, and we're just going to be giving everyone, all the coaches, some tips and tricks towards athletic coaches and towards, especially towards the robot games. I think this is I think that's what I have. So we'll first start off with the meeting organization. So how should you be planning your meetings? So what we would suggest is, so how often you should have a meeting? We say once or twice a week. That's what had worked really well in the past for us. And usually you'd want your meetings 1 to 2 hours long. After that, we find attention spans can go a little less, just becomes harder for them to focus. Fun way for us, we try to break up meetings. We try to add snack breaks, have some fun activities. Core values activities are a really fun way to get them engaged, get them learning their core values, and it's just fun for everyone and for the first. Some other things are to split up the meetings. So what you a great way to do is first set some goals, some priorities you want to accomplish for the meeting, and then run down and then plan them out from the beginning with the team members about what you want to do. And then for virtual and live meetings, the way we would suggest to do it is have robot game meetings in person usually, We find that the best way to facilitate those because it's just easier, everyone gets the actual building process and can put the pieces together, it's just more fun that way. Project meetings are okay, live, for the very reason that, it's presentations, it's speaking. While in person is beneficial, if, we found that a live, a Zoom meeting or something virtual can work very well as well. Yeah, okay. So, I want to talk about the judging process. So the judging last year was similar to this year, but since it was remote, everyone might not have a good idea about how it works. So 2 years ago, you would have all your events separately, core values, project, and then RDBS, robot science, executive summary. But now, it's all combined into one, and they've removed the core values activity itself. Of course, it still helps with the core values activities, just to build like camaraderie within your team. You just don't need to practice it for the actual event. So this is just a little flowchart. Okay. It's just a little flowchart about what's going to happen once you enter the judging room. So you enter, so welcome to 2 minutes, to present your innovation project. Then the questionnaire takes 5 minutes. We do the RDBS, robot design presentation, 5 minutes, 5 minutes for questions. And then finally, the core values reflection is just them asking you questions about how you provide your this year. And don't think that they won't ask any core values questions here or this year, because they will make sure with everything. Finally, this is new, they'll give you 5 minutes of feedback. Since we've never done this before, we don't really know what this will look like. It'll probably just be them giving feedback on how they thought you did. It's not going to be like if you qualified or not, because they'll announce it at the end, but they'll just give you pros and cons of the presentation. And also to do with that last aspect you were talking about, the core value section, something really new this year is after each judging round for each robot game, they're going to be giving every team a core value score on how they did. It goes from 0 to 3 and 0 to 4, yeah. Sorry about that. And they'll be scoring you about like your enthusiasm, how you guys cooperate as a team, and just a lot of it like how much fun you have. So, as you guys have probably heard, we have a new Lego set this year. It's called Lego Spike Time. Here is what it looks like. For everyone in the room, this is what it looks like. If you don't have one yet, you should probably get one, just because. So this slide just compared with milestones, and after the end of this slide, you're probably feeling like that. So first off, we have a new goal. I don't have any milestones written on me, but you guys probably remember what it looks like if you've played in the past. It's a lot bulkier than this. Also, it requires normal double batteries, unless you have a rechargeable battery pack. Every spike comes with this battery pack, so there's no need for batteries. It's rechargeable, it has a long overall life. In terms of battery life, it's much better, and there's nothing with consistency. With the EV3 robots, once they get to around 40 or 32%, there's like a real drop in consistency. So maybe you're getting half the battery life you really need. These last for much longer than that, and the consistency stays the same throughout each thing. Next, we have the unit number Spike Time app. So if you download the Spike Time app, what you'll see is that there's a bunch of different introductory units to help you learn your new robot and show what you can do with it. There's one unit, I think it's the third unit? Yeah, it's called Competition Ready. This unit is designed for FOS, so it will lead you through building a basic robot, how to program, how to test it, all that. Finally, motors and sensors for this robot. I'll just stand up this robot. So we have large motors and medium motors. I'll go into these more later, but the two medium motors, the driving motors up here, large motors right here. And then there's also a whole bunch of robot. Here's the nice one. Here's the force sensor, and here's the upside sensor. The programming interface is like Scratch, which uses word blocks. Or you can also do Python this game, but if you guys are like new programmers and not like really good at programming, we would just recommend word blocks because it's just so much easier to make up programming. So the various different sensors this year, so we have the color sensors, the ultrasonic sensors, the force sensors. The force sensors are actually different than last year. Yeah, that happened. So the force sensor actually tells the amount of force that is pressed instead of just like whether it's touch or not. Also, something that we found really valuable this year is the embedded gyro sensor inside the spike. So compared to recent years, especially with the mindstorms, there's actually a gyro inside of the spike brick.
Yeah, so it's inside the brick. So there's a separate sensor earlier, now the sensor is actually inside the brick. So you don't even need a sensor.
Yep, and then to do with the color sensor, I think, yeah, so there's one color sensor on this one, and what we can do with this is we can track lines. This year it's really helpful because as Fred was explaining with the mission board earlier, you're able to see how all of it is really interconnected with black lines, which are kind of like highways. And then also, you'll see with our auto robot right here, we have two color sensors instead of one. And personally, we would recommend two color sensors instead of one if you have the space on your robot, because it just tracks it a lot better. When you actually code, you'll find that it's just less jerky. It'll just go much smoother because each of the color sensors will be like on opposite sides of the black line, and it'll just go a lot smoother. And you need a lot of resources on color sensor tracking, and any of these sensors. YouTube's a really great place for this. There's a lot of tutorials out there.
Yeah, even though spikes new, you'll still find tutorials. People are doing the stuff. Okay, well, motors and wiring. So we have two main types of motors. This is the same as EV3. These are the motors may be different. They still have the same names. We have the large motor right here, and the medium motor right here. They're on this robot too. So let's talk about the uses of different motors. In base robots for spike, we tend to use medium motors as opposed to motors, just because on a full board you don't need speed and power, you need accuracy. And medium motors are great for that. And for your attachment motors, you can use large motors for like the one mission where you can smash the plane and it flies forward. That might require more power, but for other missions, a medium motor will work just fine. So sometimes you could use two medium motors for driving, then a large motor like shown here, or two medium motors for driving, and then another medium motor for the attachment. And finally, there's one change in wiring, which I like a lot. Those little things, little pieces of wire clips. So if you look at your spike kit, this might be the only piece that you don't recognize. This looks a little interesting. So what it's meant to do is, I have one of them right here. What it's meant to do is help you manage the wires on your robot. So when you connect the wires are pretty long. They're all the same length since you don't have the different wires that are connected to the motors that you do. And what these do is they just help you manage the wires all over the robot. We have a couple on the back here. Yeah. So yeah, that's
Just a quick does anyone have any questions about right now? No? Okay, that's it. Yeah, so next, Rohan will demonstrate spike demonstration for just how it works and how to start it up.
So first thing, we'll start. I'm going to turn it on. With the big button in the middle, you just push that button. And then, oh wait. Okay. So now it's on. You see the heart, right? What we're going to do is you can cycle through the different programs like this, right? And you can store up to 10 programs on here. But let's say you want to run a motor manually. Like in EV3, you would go to motor control, and then you press the buttons, and everything would run at full power. In this case, I'm just going to plug motor into port E. We just click on the heart, and then it brings up this little menu with the dot moving this way. Now what I can do is I can push the arrow keys to make the motor run at different speeds. I can slow it down, and then I can reverse it. Right? The next thing you can do is you can look at the sensors too. So let's say I have it works best with the ultrasonic sensor. So let's plug this ultrasonic sensor in. Okay, so now I have an ultrasonic sensor plugged in. Now I click on here. Now it has a display with one dot. Now let's say I move my finger closer to it, the dots will go up. Oh wait, let's see. How do we just plug in?
Yeah, hold it up.
Yeah, just hold that. So if you watch the dots, when I bring my hand closer, my dot goes up, and then it goes back down again. Of course, it's a little inconsistent because my hand isn't big enough, but it works pretty well, as you can see. So it goes down and back up. The same process can be repeated with the force sensor, as it can measure how much force you're applying. So if I push harder on this sensor, it goes up to the max, and then if I push softer, it goes back down. Now, this is just one cool nifty little feature we found. You don't need it, but if you show it to the kids, they'll probably love it because you can just play around with it. So let's say I hold my motor like this. Instead of the earlier display we saw, there's just a line. So what will happen is when I push the force sensor, the harder I push it, the faster the motor will go, up to max speed. And then when I let go of it, it'll slow down again. So the kids will play around with that. They'll have a lot of fun. Oh yeah, now let me demonstrate. Now we're going to look at a finished robot. This is a pre-complicated finished robot. Here's a simpler one. If you're a beginner, you could look at making something like this. Just have your two basic motors, color sensor, a large motor, right? This looks simple, but on this board it can get a lot done. Like, a lot of the missions just require one moving arm. Like, let's say, this transfer, you guys can see the mission. But, what you should have your kids do is look at all the missions and look at what kind of motion they require. And most of them are really simple like push motions, swing motions, which can easily be accomplished with one motor or even no motors. So, especially since you have a size limit, where you have to put everything into a small box at the beginning, you should really look at really simpler instead of more complicated. So, here's the more advanced robot. We have two medium motors down here, two color sensors, and one large motor up here, and large motor up here. Now, the next thing is so, on every robot, you're going to have some attachments to make the robot drive around and accomplish missions, right? Right now, this robot on its own can't do much, but here's a really simple attachment. This yellow arm, right? So I attach the yellow arm, and the robot can drive around and hit something. As you get older, as you get more seasoned, they can build more complicated attachments. So this is just an example of like a drop-on attachment. So I slide that on, and it just drops right in. The reason these are so useful is because these come on and off really fast. It just reduces the time that you're changing in base, realize you get more missions done.
With something like this, especially, it would be harder for like really new teams. So if you're a new team, you might want to suggest to start with the other one out. It's still a lot of fun and it can get a lot done. But yeah, for more advanced teams, this is really the way to go for your first robot.
Yeah. One more note. If you look at the bottom, it says dog gears. So I'm not going to do a dog gear demonstration right now, but I'm just going to show you what they look like. So right here, on the edge of this motor, this spinning thingy, that's one part of the dog gear. All you have to do is just go search up dog gears, Lego on YouTube, and there'll be tons of videos on how to use them, where to use them, and why they're so useful. Essentially, the basic concept is, normally to connect something to a motor, you have to stick an axle in the motor. And if we're talking about streamlining the process, that's taking time. But with dog gears, you can just mesh a piece with this, and the piece will unmesh really easily. So again, this is getting more complicated, but it's just streamlining the process over and over, and people have really innovative ways to do stuff like that.
And also what you'll notice in both robots, especially, is how we structure the motors. So what we did is we put medium motors on for the driving wheel, and we found just in general it just works better because they take up less space under the brake. They just fit in a really compact shape. And then it's the same on this one right here. And then also what we found is using a large motor for the attachment motors that we use are better because they're just able to provide more torque, so you can just get more missions done because you're, like, for example, you can carry something heavy or you could push something a little harder. It's just a lot easier to get stuff done faster.
Yeah. Final thing on this slide. As your kids get more seasoned, you'll start to see the transformation from this robot to this robot. Of course, this robot isn't perfect. There's things you could improve with this robot. But really what's going to happen is they're just going to start building more boxes around the edge. And the reason this cage is useful is just because it helps you orient yourself in the field. Like, let's say you want to stop at a wall. You'll drive up to the wall, and if you're at an angle, it'll flatten itself against the wall automatically. Right? And doing stuff like that just makes your run more consistent because you know where you are relative to other things. That's the most important thing during that run. Oh, that's a coding demonstration.
Did you know that? Next we'll be talking about coding tips. So we covered a couple of building tips, so we'll be moving on to coding. So our first main tip, just don't overcomplicate it. Move blocks, just simple term blocks, they can really get you a lot of, really basically anywhere. Use a couple sensors, but really the main goal should be make sure that the kids can explain it. As a judging room, it's very possible that if they can't explain it, the judges will be able to figure that out really quickly, and they'll know that they weren't able to understand every single step of the way, and that's what really they want. Also, what we suggest is printing out the code on the day of judging. So the judges really look for this. They ask for a printout of your code just to see what you guys did, and they will ask questions about it, and they'll just look over, and you can show like the coding missions that you're most proud of, or of your my blocks if that's a little more complicated programming technique, but that's also what they could use if you know about that. And then also the difference between word blocks and Python. This is new in Spike, and in word blocks, as we said previously, we would really suggest that for new teams and teams comprising mostly of younger members, so maybe 4th through 6th grade teams. But Python would be really helpful. Python is a very universal language, especially in the real world. So yeah, that's a great thing to get introduced to in 7th and 8th grade.
Also, keep in mind, using Python is not going to really any bonus points. The judges really, they're not going to be like, oh, they use Python, they have to be a better team now. But they're looking for the innovation you design. So, of course, Python is a great programming language, and it's great for the kids to learn that. But just remember, you shouldn't put pressure on your team to use it if they don't want to do it themselves. Yeah, so now, we will finish coding demonstration. Just to show it. Okay. So, I'm not going to write a program right now, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So, this is the basic layout of the new Python programming software. If you look, it looks a lot like Scratch if you guys have seen Scratch before, and it works a lot like Scratch too. It has a word block like we used before, and if you scroll through that, you have the murder block, you have the movement block, light blocks, this is new. So, on these light blocks, I would do that as well.
Yeah.
Just turn the small one.
Okay.
So if you look at this spike, it's the one that I showed you earlier. It has a bunch of little LED lights on it, and these LED lights can make different places for people. And the kids will have fun with this too. Super adorable feature. They can make like stars, little smiley faces. Yeah. There's different lights that have different. And it's got sounds. And then there's the events. So there's stuff like this in Scratch too. What the events section is for is really just for like if you're trying to activate a sensor or start your program or do something when a certain condition happens. Right? So make sure your kids explore all these blocks, make sure they're familiar with using them, because these will be useful when programming with sensors and motors. Next we have control. So control is more like loops and if-then statements. These are also useful for activating the sensors and all, because there are multiple methods to use the sensors. If you are using the control, then you're also going to want to know how to use the sensor tab. So they have a whole tab for sensors. Keep in mind, all these blocks will not work on their own. They have to be combined with a control block, right? So you have the block that gets the sensor value, but they need the control block to control and tell the robot what to do based off that value. Next we have operators. Really, this is like for more fun and complicated programming. For FLOs, you might not need this as much, except for the greater than, less than, or equal to programs. Like let's say using the gyro sensor, you want to turn to a certain angle. So you can turn to the angle is equal to 100 degrees, something like that. There are YouTube tutorials on that too, how to turn with the gyro sensor, because it's embedded in the spike. Finally, we have the variables tab and the MyBlocks tab.
To do with the MyBlocks tab especially, that can be helps with the gyro sensor. If you want to look into that more, just search it up on YouTube. There's a lot of tutorials on that. It's a little bit more complicated, but with it, basically, you could create programs such as to make the robot drive perfectly straight with the gyro sensor at all times, or turn it specifically to a certain angle very smoothly. But yeah, if you're a more advanced team, that's really something that I would look into.
And I mean, honestly, from our years of experience, the judges like to see math labs. They like to have a printout and say, like, this is a math lab. And they don't have to make complicated math labs. They can make a simple math lab, just like a couple of drives straight and then a turn. But it's really good to get the kids acquainted with all these types of programming early, so then when they advance further, they know how to like use those methods to make more complex programs. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the basic overview. I have a small program written on here, but you can run it if you want. Here, I can hold it in front of you. Let me switch this over. I'm just gonna run it. This is the High-Rolla program. There we go. Okay. So when you turn it on, it'll open up to the start menu, and then I have a program stored on here already. To actually activate the program, on the top left thing of the Spike menu, like when you open a new project in Spike, on the top left corner there'll be a connect button. You can click on that and you can connect it with Bluetooth or the cable. It'll give you specific instructions with pictures how to connect it using Bluetooth, so don't be worried about that. It should be pretty easy. Now I turn it on. My program is downloaded on over here, so I can just go click the side button, go to 0, and then let's just say I hit this program. My program will start running. Right, so this is just a driving program. The wheels are running. Yeah. So that's just a really simple program. It'll just drive a bit, stop a bit, and bit. And yeah, that's...
Yeah. And then also to do with the Bluetooth and the connections. So for just at-home use, Bluetooth is a lot better. We find from the cable, so especially when you're creating your base robot as you've been showing, make sure not to cover up that port, because don't cover up that port even if you are using Bluetooth, because at the actual competition you're actually not allowed to use Bluetooth.
And you have to charge it.
Yeah, and you have to charge the robot at home. So
it's always important to build your robot so that this port is open. Because unlike EV3, this port has dual use. It can be used for recharging, and it can be used for connecting to another feature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, then I think that's it.
Any questions? Thank you. That was cool. I hope this one did a good job explaining.
Thank you, guys.
Any questions?
All right, so that concludes our meeting. I'm thinking, if they couldn't hear me online at the beginning, I might re-record that piece, just so we have a recording online for people. Anybody else have any final questions? You have something to say?
Stand at the podium, Fred. Speak loud. One of the other responsibilities of the referees is when they're filling out the score sheets, there's going to be a final evaluation that we do on every team that comes up on every match. And that's for professionalism. This is professionalism, right? And it counts toward their core value. So when a team comes to the table, we're assuming that they have an accomplished value at that point. If they do something that exceeds just a normal team, then we can advance them to exceed, which is another point higher. Or if they do something that isn't very nice, maybe they're a really impatient team or something, we can decrease their score to just being, it's in development, okay? So that's those three settings. So you're either you're in development, which means you're not quite as gracious as you need to be, or you're gracious, or you really exceed being gracious. If you don't show up for a match, and you don't let us or one of the officials know that you're not coming to the match, you will get 0 for your gracious professional in school. So, that's an additional thing this year.
That's the piece that I think Rohan and Addie were describing a little bit. So there will be a piece from the table that will apply to New Jersey as well. Any of my questions?
No, they're related.
Oh, okay.
But I know you have.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. We look forward to seeing y'all at events.